that?
Yes.
Well, I will never forget when I arrived in Nigeria, and I went to Yaba to meet your mother and your family, all your sisters. And I remember how I arrived in that street, and I was standing in front of the house. And then I went into the house, and all they were very, very curious. Who is Roman, the best friend of Wally from Austria? And then your mother was there, and she welcomed me so warm, like my own mother, and she treated me like her own son. And I went into the house, and she was sitting on this fantastic, wonderful furniture, and she was sitting there like she was like wow, a personality, a real. She was sitting there like a queen, like an empress, and she was sitting there, and all Wally's sisters came, and those who were there, and they were kneeling down in front of her, I remember, and they were not even having a chance to look at her face. Their eyes were bound down, and they asked her, and she said, yes, do that, do this, do that. And she said, well, Roman, come and sit next to me. And I was sitting next to her, and it was like, for me, like a big privilege to be closer to her and sit to her. Even though I was not part of the family, she accepted me, and she gave me lots of other privileges. She said, she called a boy, a very nice guy, and she said, you will be with him, and you will guide him through Lagos. You will be with him, you will be with him day by day, as long as he stays with us. And so I did. And I remember I was sleeping there at the house. I was sleeping next to Wally, to all your sisters. And I remember one of them, she was so small, I held her in my arms. I think that was it Yetunde? Yetunde, it was Yetunde. And Yinka was there, of course. And they were all with these big eyes looking at me, and we had lots of fun. And then your mother called me again, and she said, Wally's father died, and there will be the funeral, and I want you, Roman, as the best friend of Wally from Austria, I want you to represent my son and be there instead of him, be there on his place. And that's what I did. So I went to the house, and I remember when I entered the house of I think it was the house of your father. And I entered the house, and there was an incredible, especially the women, they were crying so much. I've never seen people so strong crying. They were really expressing their pain, their heart pain. And so I went. I was always on the side of your mother. And since the women had to stay upstairs in the upper floor, and the men were downstairs, I was the only man that was allowed also to join the women upstairs, plus be with the men downstairs. So I did. I switched all over around, and then there was your father was wrapped into a white linen. The body was fully covered with this white linen, and then they took him to all the four like west, south, east, and north, the four directions. And I was there. I was there next to him, next to his body, and your mother said, because they also unfold him so that we could see him, and then your mother said, please take some pictures now. And I was so shy. I said, but I cannot do that. I mean, I don't want to disturb the celebration. But your mother said, yes, but you should, because you should give these pictures to my son. And so I did it. And then we we all went to the place where your father was buried, and again, right there at the spot, only men were allowed to be around. So I was there, and the women stood behind, grieving and expressing their grief, and I was there next to where the funeral took place. And then I went with the whole family back to your mother's house, and first I think we went back to the father's house and then to the mother's house. But there we had lots of meal, we had lots of food, and then I stayed with your family. I stayed there overnight. I remember I was sleeping next to your sisters, and I had this boy, and she called this boy from, I think he was not part of the family, but he was like being there, like serving the family. And she said, you will be with Roman, my son's best friend from Vienna, and you will guide him and you will take care of him. And he was always next to me. Wherever I went, he was there next to me. But he was such a nice guy, so I felt very comfortable with him, and he always took care of me. He always tried to read all my wishes from my eyes, and he immediately was there. And I remember all your sisters, and as I mentioned already, Yetunde, she was very attached to me. She was so small, and I had such a wonderful time, and I wish that one day I will be back, and even though your mother is not there, but then I want to go and I want to go and see the place where she will be buried. And I do remember talking to her more often on the phone, and she always said, we are waiting for you, we are expecting you. You can always come whenever you're ready. We are expecting you. There is always our home open for you, and that was for me such a very, very deep touching, deep in my soul. I was touched, and I felt since then I know that I have a second home in Nigeria, and it made that trip not only. It wasn't only a trip to Nigeria, it was much more. It was more a journey into myself, a journey back to myself, back to in a way back to my roots. Even though I'm not inherited African, it was a way back to my roots.